Hi everyone, good afternoon. I see a few people have already dialed in, but I'm just allowing 1 or 2 more minutes to enable everyone to join us. Okay, so I'll just take off. Welcome everyone again to this webinar, and thank you for taking the time to join this webinar with us. Today we're going to talk about the Young Professionals Network, the YPN, and we're just going to show you what it's all about, and also we're hoping to kind of open the discussion with you to see how we can support you or your colleagues who are also young professionals in the labeling industry. So before we start, I would just like to give you some useful tips. In the bottom of your screen, you see a few options. And one of them is the Q&A. This is where you can insert your questions if you have them. And we will try to answer them as quickly as possible before we go on to the next topic. And it's also possible, if you would like to say something, to raise your hand, and then you can allow me just a few seconds to make the settings so that you are allowed to talk and so that everyone can hear you. And furthermore, everyone is automatically muted. And this webinar is also being recorded, and it's possible to play the recordings from the FINAT website after this webinar has concluded. I also would like to shortly go over our competition law statement. I think it's known by all our members, so no need to go over it in detail, but just a short reminder for you before we take off. So now our webinar today will be about who the YPN is, and then just to give you a short idea of what we have been up to these last couple of years, and also a more detailed overview of our new brand strategy. And then, like I mentioned before, we would love to hear from you what your expectations are, or if you have any suggestions for us. And next to me, we have 2 other lovely presenters today, both from the YPN board. We have Matthias Herbst and Michaela Harding. And first, I would like to give the floor to Matthias to tell you more about our history. Matthias, for you.
Thanks a lot, Elke. Thanks everybody for joining our today's webinar. Really appreciate that you are giving the time to us and this hour. As Elke said, we want to give you a brief introduction into what the Young Professionals Network is and what our history is as being part of the FINAT group. In 2008, for the 50th anniversary, FINAT decided to launch the YMC. So it's got quite a history of already 12 years, which is, I think, important to know. It's not such a new concept and not such a huge thing, and a lot happened since then. There's quite a history. In 2010, there was kind of a kickoff with the LMAI, which is an association in the label industry in India. And maybe Elke can give us a bit more background on what happened there. Afterwards, there was the very first YMC summit in Vienna, and then the first YMC Global Congress in 2012, which then led into a yearly Young Managers Club conference in different cities in Europe. I personally had my first session in probably 2016 or 2017 in Budapest, and since then attended 3 conferences myself. First of all, in very interesting cities, and then secondly in a very, very familiar and open group, which I appreciated from the first second. It really, from the very first minute when I joined the group, it felt like being friends, which is not a usual thing in general, and which is not an easy thing in any industry, because it's all about business usually, and all about numbers, figures, and maybe personal development. And within the YPN, I personally found from the first minute something that was different. And then in 2019, unfortunately, we found that the participants' numbers were going down, and it was hardly possible to keep up a separate YMC conference besides the FINAT conference. And therefore, we decided to rethink the whole thing and the whole concept, and to relaunch the brand itself, which is what a lot of brands do when they start struggling. So did we, and we implemented the Young Professionals Network. And today we want to give you a bit of background why we decided also to name it Young Professionals Network instead of Young Managers Club. We'll come to that point later. And then, Elke, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We wanted to give you a bit of a feeling of what the spirit in the group was so far. So as you can see, from the age, I'd say roughly between 30 and 40, some younger, some older, we could even say between 20 and 40. Quite a small group, as you also can see, maybe in the picture in the bottom left. That was one of the last conferences in Bucharest, and we've been around 15 people, which is quite a cool group size, because you really get to know each other. You really can take deep dives into the content that we developed and discussed together. But at the same time, obviously it's a bit difficult to find sponsors for such a group, and to explain to your bosses or the people who decide whether these conferences happen and whether the people can go there or not. It's a bit difficult to market it to them if the group is so small. And that's as I said, why we decided to relaunch the whole concept and to give it a new touch, which we would like to get your feedback on today. We already started to then integrate rather with the FINAT, which is our, let's say, mother group or mother organization, and very, very important to us. And we want to more integrate in the future. And in last year's FINAT conference in Copenhagen, we already first of all had a presentation about our relaunch, and also shared a few thoughts which were a bit polarizing, maybe a bit some things that the FINAT people didn't necessarily expect to hear, because we were very open and honest, as we are in our group, and then at the same time try to integrate our concept into the FINAT conference, which meant we had a night dive. We booked ourselves a restaurant, had a nice group of, again, 15, 16, 17 people, brainstormed about what does interest young people in the industry, and also brainstormed about what do young people in the industry expect from companies in the industry to attract young people. We discussed such things and then presented them. I think we launched them in a PI, and then we also presented them to the FINAT. That's more or less what we do and what was so far always very much about development topics, personal development, but we also had business games from the Liverpool University. Quite interesting stuff happening there. If you want to know more, please raise a question. I don't want to go way deeper into that now. If it interests anybody, as I said, please raise questions and we can discuss that later.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. I do not see any questions at the moment, but please feel free to insert them whenever they come up. Yeah, so basically the YMC started as a group to help young managers create a network throughout the whole label industry. And as it wasn't that easy to connect back then, and the India exchange was one of those examples where we met up with young managers from India and young managers from over Europe to see how everyone was working and to kind of exchange ideas, etc. And then we introduced these yearly summits, and then later also the Global Congress, to also meet up with the young leaders of TLMI. And yeah, that connection developed into also being a platform for personal development as well throughout the years. So now I would like to hand over to Michaela, who's going to tell you more about our new brand strategy.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So yeah, as Matthias has touched on, we kind of were looking at a reduction in numbers. I think we were almost getting lost in the voice of the wider FINAT group, and we needed to really try and understand exactly what our purpose within the industry was going to be. I mean, we as members, and I'm hoping to see you know, a couple of you guys joining today, so thanks a lot for that. And what we have is really special, I think. I think we have a lot of fun. Okay, yes, we have a lot of fun, but what within our network, I think we really are able to be really, as Matthias said, really open and honest with each other, and really open and honest about our industry and the future of our industry. We were planning a kind of kick-off boot camp this year as the rebranded YPN. And obviously due to COVID and everything that's been going on, we've decided to take this time instead to kind of, again, really think about going back to the basics of what is the YPN purpose. And that's kind of what we've been doing over the past couple of months, is discussing that internally with the board. And what we want to do today is basically present to you guys exactly what we are feeling about this, and hopefully get some feedback from you. So please, yeah, raise a hand, ask a question, and we can, yeah, make this a bit more of an open discussion. So you go to the next slide, Elka. So first of all, obviously we're talking what is our purpose. As we've spoken before, we were the YMC, which was the Young Managers Club. We tweaked that slightly and made that Young Professionals. Obviously, I feel like everybody, you know, doesn't necessarily have manager in their title, so kind of felt that they weren't able to be involved. So that's also another reason for bringing in the term professionals. I mean, yeah, in terms of managers, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I think Young Professionals Network is a more inclusive, you know, title. So as it states here, exists to enable an open and free community for young professionals in the label industry, where they can meet like-minded people to develop personally and together, make a difference in the label industry. I think I struggle to find people my age in the industry. As we know, industry-wide, everybody's always talking about getting in the next generation and trying to attract new talent. And I think it's one of those situations where it's increasingly difficult. I mean, with our generation, we're much more easier to find connections through social media and things like this. So I think it's just basically a group of us together that can network and really be open and honest with each other about trends and things coming up and what's important to us, how we see the industry progressing, in which direction it could be going in, and I really feel like this is, like I've said before, a really great purpose for us, in a way to connect people across Europe as well. There's no other, I mean, there's kind of clubs and things like that within different countries within Europe, but to be able to really bring us all together, because we're all facing the same challenges, we're all facing the same issues. I think it's really a great place to kind of bring us all together and be able to talk openly and honestly. As Matthias said, when I joined, I think the first one I went to was in Lisbon, and I immediately just loved the concept, loved meeting all the different people. I was from a company where I was one of a handful of younger people. So it's just great to meet all these different people, get all their different inputs and ideas, and really bounce off each other, and get the kind of energy from each other and things like that. So yeah, this is what we've kind of put down as our purpose. We then kind of moved over to our vision. So basically, it's a fairly straightforward vision, obviously, shaping the future of the label industry. We are the next generation of the label industry. We will be, hopefully running it, but we're going to be moving up, and we're going to be progressing, and we will be the members of the bigger FINAT, once we leave the young professionals and we kind of move up into those kind of higher ranks. And I think it's important to get that connection and get that network at a younger age, again, to boost each other up, gain confidence. I think for me especially, confidence is one of the main things that came up for me when joining the group, and being able to learn about new ideas and new technologies and take them back to the respective businesses where we work, and kind of implement or suggest and help and change. Basically just bring fresh ideas back to independent businesses. So yeah, shaping the future of the label industry, I think, is a really good, clear vision that we've come up with. Again, if there's any questions, I'm not sure, I can't see anything. I don't know if I can see anything in the chat, Elka. This is kind of where we feel is exactly where we should be. We will be shaping the future of the label industry. Next slide. So our mission. So this is basically how we obviously want to do it. So it is our mission to interact via online and offline events to bring industry players together and inspire an open community to enable free thinking, which would lead to innovation and development in the label industry. I mean, it's a lot of what I've already spoken about, obviously, but I feel like to bring it together in a really concise way is really important. As we said, we had sort of lower numbers coming to the congresses. I think we appreciate that not a lot of companies are willing to really, invest the money to send their employees to 2 to 3 day events, in different countries. There's a lot of expense that comes to that. There's a lot of time that comes to that. We've done a lot of surveys amongst YPN members and also the wider FINAT group, and said, why do you think that we're not getting necessarily the numbers that we would expect to bring into the community? And time and money is very much the answer that kind of came up on a regular basis. So I think what we're looking at now is maybe, and especially with recent events and the pandemic and everything, is moving to maybe more of an online way of working, and the way of being able to share content with you guys, doing webinars, doing like blog posts and things like this. And I think that's a really great way of keeping us together as a group and being able to discuss ideas, share content, without obviously then having the time and money expense traveling to a different country. We hope to still obviously get together physically, obviously when the pandemic allows us, because I think obviously that's really great as well, because that's where you, like Matthias said, you get the personal connections with people, you get to meet the people, and obviously that we consider all of them as our friends, and you get to really bond with each other and learn loads about each other and obviously have fun. So that's kind of where we are in terms of free thinking as well. Traditionally, I feel like the label industry has been quite secretive sometimes. When you're talking to certain people about what they're doing and how they're doing it, they don't necessarily want to discuss it so openly, obviously because of competition within the industry, which I perfectly do understand. I think we need to break down that barrier a little bit and be able to more openly discuss things for the greater good of the label industry. And I think that's something that we really are passionate about within YPN, is being really open and honest, and saying I'm facing these challenges and helping everybody kind of overcome them, because at the end of the day we want to see the label industry grow. We want to be growing with it as well. So I think that's also a really important aspect. Next slide. So this is kind of, there's a lovely photo there of Chris. That was taken in our night dive last year. So as we said, our positioning statement is an on and offline network that helps young professionals in the label industry to come together in an open and honest environment to exchange innovative and creative ideas to shape the future of the label industry. So that's just going back to, again, what we really are about: open, honest, bringing us together, networking. We support young professionals in their personal development to grow their business skills so we can build the leaders of tomorrow. I think that's really important as well. We're very interactive. We really want to hear from you. Obviously, this is the point of this webinar as well. We really want to know what we would need to do to give you the tools and able to build yourself in terms of personal development. Even if it's in terms of, okay, this is really affecting me, I'd really like to learn more about this, or I'd really like to learn more about that. Like how to handle stress, or how to build yourself up, or it could be even more basic, product management, project management skills and things like this. So we're a really, I keep harping back to this, but really open and honest community where we really want to make sure our members are really getting the best they can out of us, and that's exactly what we're trying to do today. And hopefully, again, as we kind of rebuild the brand and rebuild the group, you can really see us succeeding a lot more in the future and really building upon the community, and again bringing new ideas, new thoughts into the label industry, new innovations, and things like this. Next slide. So this is where we kind of come into the more interactive side of things, where we really would like your feedback. I appreciate this is probably quite a lot of information that you've probably just been given from us, but what we really want to understand is, what do you expect from us, and what could we do to better support you and things like this, because I think obviously when we're discussing different ways of reaching you, obviously we've spoken about maybe moving to a more of an online basis instead of having the more expensive meetups and congresses and things. I think it's really important obviously to get some feedback from you guys. So yeah, if there's any questions or anything in the question box or anything like that, I mean, as you said, this is still an ongoing process. We're still kind of going through the whole branding and strategy and really trying to understand what the best way forward for the group is. So again, if you have any ideas, anything like that, or if you just want some more information, or you want to just talk to any of us about any of it, then obviously that's completely fine. I'm sure you can message FINAT and get any of our email addresses, and we can have a conversation about it. Yeah, it's really, I think it's really important to be a much more interactive group and really ask what you would expect from the YPN. So I'm not sure if there's anything there, Elke.
Hi, no, I do not have any comments or questions yet. But please feel free to insert your comments if it was all clear to you, or if you have any questions left about what the YPN is, or if you think, oh, I have some young managers or young professionals in our company that are struggling with certain topics or certain ways to develop themselves, then this is a perfect platform to send them to and to raise those topics to us so we can incorporate them in our program. Yeah, so next to this webinar, feel free to contact us anytime via the FINAT Secretariat, or send an email to Michaela or Matthias to give us your feedback.
Also, if you feel like there's anything missing in the industry for young employees, you know, it's kind of sad, and we don't want to make this sound too dramatic, but we have seen people, or we have been losing people in the YMC or YPN network, whatever the name was. Not because people didn't like the YPN, but because people have left the industry, and you cannot count these on one hand. You need more than one hand to count the people who left the industry, because obviously for several reasons, but most of them haven't changed within the label industry. They've left the label industry to whatever, automotive or something else. So if you feel like there's anything missing in the industry, and you want to, you know, say that openly and from a young employee's perspective, please, this is really the perfect network and platform to share that with us. We will treat that 100% confidently. We can help you, that's first, and secondly, we can try to work that into our concept, and you know, try to make this a place where people from the industry feel, young people from the industry feel at home.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to touch on that as well, obviously, when the reason for me joining as well is because I didn't feel necessarily, like I said, I was coming from a company that didn't have very many young people, very like-minded people. And I think I just needed that something extra. Like, there's all these, obviously there's management courses and things like that, but I needed that something extra to make me feel supported and to make me feel like I am within a label community. I'm not just an employee of a company. I am part of something bigger than just the individual part that I play at my business. And that's definitely what the YPN gave to me. And I think that's why we're so passionate about trying to make sure that more people join in, because it is a really great thing to be a part of. And I think getting the word out there as well is a massive point to take on. And I want everyone to be involved, really.
Yeah, it's a great platform to get kind of introduced to the whole industry, because our industry is so huge, and you might not know where to start or where to build your network. Of course, you can go to the FINAT events to get a lot of information on recent developments, etc. But this group is a bit smaller, and maybe makes it easier for young and new people to open up and to get to know other like-minded people who are maybe in the same situation as they are or were a few years ago. And also the personal development part, where you get to sit together and do these exercises on lean manufacturing or whatever other business canvas models there are. And it also works the other way around, where FINAT asked us a question last year. Okay, how can we attract a younger generation? How can we keep these people? And this is where we spent an evening brainstorming on this topic, and we actually gave a few answers and suggestions back to the FINAT community for the senior management to kind of have a look at and see if they could maybe use these things in their business. I think the story was either very clear or they have still no clue, because I did not get any questions or comments in the Q&A or the chat.
Yeah, I think it is a lot of information to kind of sit through and try and really understand. I mean, I'm hoping that it's just super clear for everybody and they understand. So yeah, I guess if we wrap this up and you know, always keep in mind that, you know, anybody has any sort of questions, then obviously they can come to us, and we hope to do much more webinars like this, and you know, basically this is kind of the building blocks of the next phase of the YPN, and obviously we really appreciate anybody's feedback. So yeah.
I see one question coming in. And the question is, what exactly is the process of joining the YPN? Would you like me to answer that, Michaela?
Yeah, probably easier.
Yeah, so what you do is we have an online application form, which you can complete. It's mentioned in the, if you go to the FINAT webpage, you have a section about FINAT, and there you can click on Young Professionals Network, and you will see a link to join the group. And this is free of charge to all FINAT members. And if a company is not a FINAT member yet, then people can also join the platform for a small fee. In case they are already a member of another national association, then they also get a discount on that fee. But I have to say that it's only possible to then be a member of the YPN for a maximum of 2 years. So the best thing is to be a FINAT member, and then you can send all your young professionals for free to the YPN. And there is no onboarding process. Members are immediately accepted. They just have to be, I think, younger than 40 or 42 years old to be accepted to the group. You're welcome. I see a thank you in the Q&A. Good, okay. So, yeah, with no further questions, I would like to thank Michaela and Matthias for their explanations and for telling a bit more what the YPN is about. Again, this webinar has been recorded, so you can find it online on our FINAT website later to maybe listen to it again, or to send it to your colleagues who you think would be interested in joining the group. And of course, you're always welcome to contact us for any questions or suggestions you have. So
anytime. Thanks, Elke. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, cheers,
and hope
everyone.
to see you soon.
Oh, I see one chat. Oh, it says thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon.